that if you want to actually clear mains, paper completion is a prerequisite. Now, why do we like to think of it as a trap? Now, this strict time limit of 7 minutes and 11 minutes for a 10 marker and a 15 marker respectively, we like to think of this as a trap that we may either not know the answers to or we may not know the complete answers to. What you have to do is, you have to now think in terms of blocks. Good evening, aspirants. Welcome to day 2 of Mission Mains by PW OnlyIAS. Today's session will be on time management and paper completion in the exam hall. Before we start with this session, let me remind you that if you want to actually clear mains, paper completion is a prerequisite. Many toppers have listed their experiences with paper completion and how it helped them clear the examination. Now, in any general studies question paper, you will have 20 questions and you will be allocated 3 hours. If you have to complete that paper, you would have heard of this time limit from many people. There is a 7-minute time limit, there is an 11-minute time limit for 10 markers and 15 markers respectively. We at PW OnlyIAS, we like to think of this strict time limit as a trap. Now, why do we like to think of it as a trap? Before that, let me just break it down for you as to where does this time limit come from. You should be reminded that 20 questions in general studies will come in 2 blocks. 10 questions of 10 marks each, 10 questions of 15 marks each. That means there are 2 blocks. In terms of the number of questions, both these blocks carry the same number of questions. But in terms of weightage, this block carries 100 marks and this block carries 150 marks. Now, clearly, 150 is 3/5 of the total weightage. This means this is 2/5 of the total weightage. Quite obviously, the amount of time you will dedicate to write these 10 answers will be higher than the amount of time that you dedicate to write these 10 answers. The calculation so works that 3/5 of 180 minutes roughly translates, not roughly, exactly translates to 108 minutes. That means you have 108 minutes to cover 10 questions, which basically says 10.8 minutes per 15 marker. Now, if 108 minutes are dedicated to this block, this leaves you with only 72 minutes for this block, or technically 7.2 minutes per 10 marker. This is what we like to round off and say 7-minute limit and an 11-minute limit. Now, this strict time limit of 7 minutes and 11 minutes for a 10 marker and a 15 marker respectively, we like to think of this as a trap. Why do we think that this is a trap? The reasons are twofold. The first reason is, in any general studies paper, you expect that around 3 to 4 questions you will not know the answers to. Either you will just not know them or you may partly know them. Now, if there is a question which you don't know the answer to or don't know the complete answer to, even if you dedicate all the time, which is to say 11 minutes if it's a 15 marker, 7 minutes if it's a 10 marker, how is that going to help you? That means we can save up on some time for these questions. We will have to attempt these questions too, but we will not dedicate as much time as we dedicate to these questions that we know the answers to. This is one reason. The second reason is that you cannot be continuously looking at your watch after every 7 minutes. That also, one, adds to some amount of psychological pressure, plus also leads to some time wastage. So you do not waste time giving each question a strict time limit. What you want to be doing is you want to be working in blocks. Now, what is block thinking all about? We like to think of the entire question paper as a set of 5 blocks. 2 blocks for 10 markers that we know. These are 10 markers that you know the answers to. The first one and the second one. The third block and the fourth block are explicitly dedicated to the 15 markers that we know the answers to. So the third and fourth for 15 markers, and the last block is for the residual questions, the 3 to 4 questions that we expect every year that we may either not know the answers to or we may not know the complete answers to. So how does this actually work? In the first half an hour, we will try to do 6 out of the questions, 10 markers that we know the answers to. The remaining questions we will do in the next 30 minutes. This means that you will have 6 questions. You will have 30 minutes to do 6 questions. So you'll have to do them a little more rapidly, right? Because human body is not a machine. Quite obviously, you will get a little tired, which is why some more time for the remaining 10 markers that you know the answers to. Now, once again, you'll have to speed up and you'll have to complete 6 15 markers that you know the answers to in 1 hour time, and then dedicate half an hour for the residual 15 markers that you know the answers to. The last half an hour should be left essentially for the questions that you don't know the answers to or that you may just partly know. Now, basically what it means is we will have to think of this paper as a set of 2 blocks. One block is one that of the 10 markers, and at best we are going to give 1 hour to 10 markers that we know the answers to. The next 1.5 hours we are going to give to 15 markers that we know the answers to, and the last 30 minutes we have to dedicate to the leftover or the residual questions that we may just not know or we may know but partly. Thereafter, what we have to think about is practicing. Now, mind you, there are realities of test taking too. When you enter the exam hall, there are many things, operational things that you'll have to do, right? Which is say mark your attendance, right? Mark your roll numbers, look at the question paper cursorily. This is going to take some time. In the middle, you may also be required to take a bathroom break or something like that, or a restroom break. Now, account for this. Account roughly around 10 minutes for this. That effectively leaves you with only 2 hours, 15 minutes to write all the answers. Now, all of this has to be practiced straight in the mocks. You cannot just keep thinking about it. You will not know what it is like answering 20 questions in 2 hours, 50 minutes. You will know it only and only by doing. This is called learning by practice. Don't count the questions or the time in minutes. Try to think of them in blocks. This helps, like I said, to constantly be looking at your watch. It helps you avoid that phenomenon. Now, mind you, like I said, like most other things, this is also something that you will only and only experience by doing. So what you have to do is, you have to now think in terms of blocks. Now, one more question that we want to address here in this session is that should an aspirant start with 15 markers or should the aspirant start with 10 markers? Now, there are advantages to both. The advantage to starting with 10 markers is that what we have seen over the course of time, 10 markers are typically questions that you know the answers to. I mean, they're not as hard as 15 markers could be. And 10 markers in terms of the number of questions psychologically is going to give you a push if in the first hour you complete the answers to all the 10 markers that you know. You will not panic all the time. So like I said, 10 markers being a little less complicated and you don't have to write a lot of content, right, may just give you that confidence push that you require to complete the remaining answers. But there is one case which is also meant for the 15 markers. Now, if you start with 10 markers and then you move to the 15 markers, there may be a chance that there is a question that you don't know the answer to or you just could not attempt. You couldn't manage your time better because that is a reality, it can happen. Now, in that scenario, if you have to leave a question, would you want it to be a 10 marker or would you want it to be a 15 marker? So the downside to starting with 10 markers first is that if at all, God forbid, you may have to leave one question, it better be a 10 marker, it better not be a 15 marker. So for an aspirant, you can start with 15 markers, you can start with 10 markers, it does not really matter. The only thing is, like we said, thinking of time management in blocks, not strict time limit per questions. Like we said, this is something that you will only acquire, a skill that you will acquire only and only by practice. It's not just time that you're managing, you're also managing your own energy. Now this, like we said, is going to come to you with too much writing. Be obsessed with writing for the next 3 months. And we will see you in day 3 of Mission Mains by PW OnlyIAS. Thank you so much.